Hello, everyone. If anybody's here, welcome. If not, I'll just wait till I know some people are here, but I want to say welcome if anybody's in the background. I am a couple of minutes early. Hello, Mac Daddy.
Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Hold on. What's going on? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
All right, let's try something else. Just give me a minute.
Take your time.
Ouch.
You just popped up on my phone.
All right, let's see what's going on here.
You got me?
Not that one.
Not yet. Huh?
Same problem last week.
You're your own production engineer.
I hate when they do updates because it always messes up my speakers.
That's no fun.
So, last week I had to use the earbud. This week the earbud's not working. So let's see what's going on.
Wow. Still no sound?
All right, I think I can hear you now.
What about now? You got me?
Yeah, I got you. Like I said, last week I had to use the earbuds. This
Sure.
week the earbuds is not working, but at least these are working. Last week these didn't work. So whenever they do an update, I hate it. I mean, looks like we're early. Nobody else is here. So how you doing, Mac Daddy?
I'm okay. I'm sitting here in eCompass Acute Rehab in Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Okay, I was going to ask you if you were home yet. I know you said something about next week.
Yeah, next week. It's an hour. This place is an hour and a half from my home. The
Okay.
level of care here is just amazing. I
Yeah.
came here because I go through 3.5 hours of rehab a day,
Okay.
and they got me up and walking.
Have you lost some weight?
I have.
I'm going to see. You can tell on your face it looks like you lost some weight.
I lost 30 pounds.
Well, that's good. That's good. Now, is that because you're not eating, or is that because you're out moving around more?
Both.
Both. Okay.
It's what I'm eating. I'm eating a complete balanced hospital diet that the dietary department came in and tweaked especially for me.
That's good. You're going to have to try to stay on that when you get out of the hospital.
Oh, I'm
If
dropping weight like crazy.
like I said, if it's something you lose weight,
And it's
now,
just eating regular food. It's nothing special. I ain't doing no kind of crazy diet.
well,
Like
that's good.
for breakfast, I have a biscuit, 2 sausage patties. I don't like eggs in a hospital because I just don't like the eggs they use.
Yeah.
Um,
Hello, Exec. How you doing?
I have oatmeal and I have fruit
Yeah.
and a cup of cold tea.
Okay.
Lunch, I have just a basic lunch, fruit, cold tea. Dinner, I have basic dinner, fruit and cold tea. The food here is phenomenal for a hospital.
Now, what did they decide was wrong with your legs?
I
LV, 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 LV. Welcome, LV. Hey, Mike.
I have lymphedema, and when my legs break open, if they get infected, it's bad.
Okay. Now,
And
do they have a treatment for that?
well, they can treat the infection. They have nothing for lymphedema.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So there's nothing they can do to help alleviate you maybe getting broke out again.
12, tweak your diet.
Okay,
So
well, if
I
you tweak your diet, and that helps. That's good. Hello, Charmaine.
I cut out all additional salt, all processed meat. So I won't eat any lunch meat, no hot dogs, no ham, nothing unless it's fresh roast off the bone.
Okay.
No fried food.
Oh well, I don't know if they consider. Do they consider barbecued as fried?
Barbecue is not fried.
Okay, I had a couple. I had some barbecued pork chops. I got a special skillet that I can barbecue inside.
No French fries.
Hey, Tim.
No nothing that's deep fat fried. No breaded chicken fingers, nothing like that. No chicken
Okay.
wings, no fried chicken, no fried
Uh,
fish, nothing.
I can barbecue chicken, but man, I like my chicken wings. My buffalo chicken wings once in a while.
Bacon.
Uh,
It's not quite the same, I know. Bake them
no.
first, though, is a good way to go. We did that in the restaurant, then we deep fry them.
Oh, I'm gonna put
Because you
these on
drop
there.
all the slime and protein out of it, and then you deep fry them. They just, since they're already cooked, they just crisp right up. But, well, see, you can cheat like that, though, Larry. You can still have your buffalo chicken wings. You just can't have them every day.
Well, I bought enough, and then they're the thin pork chops. The bone in, but they're thin. I had 3 of those tonight. I got 2 left. I'll cook them tomorrow for supper.
What I do is
I may get something that you're probably not allowed to have. I may get some potato salad to go
I can have
with it.
potato salad.
You can have potato salad. That's
I
cool.
can have anything I want to eat in moderation.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I had 3 slices of pizza and gave the rest of the pizza away. Get it away from me. I won't have any more of that.
Yeah. Hey, lady. Now, exec, if you want, or anybody that's up there, if you want, come on up and talk with Mac Daddy and myself. Mac Daddy's not been in the channel for about 3 weeks. He's been out sick. He's still in the hospital, but he's got about a week to go, and he hopefully will get to go home. And,
See, here's the thing. I pushed all the salt out of my diet. Now you ready?
yeah.
No prepared iced tea, like you'd buy in a supermarket and already made in the bottle, because it's got sodium and preservatives in it. So
Okay.
I just drink fresh brewed tea now, with no sugar or anything in it.
Yeah. That's what I drink. I brew my own tea. I normally cold brew it.
Exactly.
Get a pitcher and put some
tea bags and put it in the fridge.
Tea bags in there. Get a bunch of cold water. I mean, fill it full of water. Put it in the refrigerator overnight.
Yep.
And it's cold brewed.
Well, that's a better way to go than buying this stuff. No soda, no Pepsi, no Coke, no Mountain Dew.
I haven't had a. Well, I've had about 3 Cokes in the last month,
right,
or a little over, and that's it.
Well, you can do that on my diet. You can do that on my diet, but nothing on a regular basis.
Well, like I said, I couldn't buy it for the house because I was drinking 2 or 3 of those a day, except for on my days off. That would be 3 to 5, probably about 4.
And what's in there? It's loaded with sugar and loaded with salt.
Well, there's no sugar. It's the Coke Zero, but it's still loaded with something that's not good for you.
It's loaded with salt.
Yeah.
And nobody realizes all the salt that you get. I don't eat commercial bread anymore. Can't buy a loaf of bread. Got to make my own.
Yeah, I still eat I buy the. It's a healthier bread. It's lower in carbohydrates.
That's still the wrong stuff because that's got formaldehyde in it and preservatives and antimicrobials.
This is the whole grain.
That's a joke. If you read the label, you'll see it's got sponge agent and all kinds of crazy stuff that if you made a simple sweet roll and froze it, you wouldn't have any of that.
Yeah.
Because if I make bread, I use water, yeast, sugar.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
I don't know what happened there, Mac Daddy. You disappeared for a minute, but you came right back up. I didn't have to do anything.
I don't know. It did it on my phone. Could have been the internet.
Yeah. Could be.
But that I thought was interesting. Like, you know, and they told me just kick all this stuff out, and then they were showing me why. And my blood work improved overnight like you wouldn't believe,
Yeah.
because all these preservatives and stuff react against other things in your body.
I believe it. So I try to not eat too many processed. About the only thing processed I eat on a regular basis is bread. Uh, and like I said, though, right now I got because I don't consider ground beef processed. All they did was grind it up.
No, that's not true.
Well, I'm saying compared to like the deli foods.
No, it's not true. It's worse than the deli foods, a lot of it. And I'll tell you why. Because they take when you buy ground meat in a supermarket, it's not just ground meat unless you buy the 98% lean.
I get to 93.
Okay, then you're okay. But if you buy anything else, it's slaughterhouse trimmings that have been ammoniated, and then they take the fat out of it, they grind it up, and they call it finely textured lean beef to the supermarket. And then they grind a little bit of trimmings with it, but that really they can't get over 80% lean. So if you're buying the 93, you're okay.
Hello,
Anything
Anna.
else, no good. Another thing that you want to avoid is oh God, what was I going to say? It's any of the lunch meat style chicken, even a lot of the Thanksgiving turkeys are injected.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
they have something they advertise that you can get that says no growth hormones or steroids added.
but that nobody adds that stuff anyhow. But what they do is they inject a lot of this stuff with whatchamacallit, brine solution, which is salt.
Yeah.
And you know, it becomes a type of processed meat, really. I don't do any sausage, no hot dogs, none of that.
I do sausage once in a while, uh, but I try not to do it too often. Especially like I like Johnsonville's New Orleans style, but I try not to eat that at all. I do it once in a while, but very seldom.
Well, again, on my diet, you can have anything you want, but when you push everything else off, it drops everything so low that you can fit a little bit of it back in. It's
Yeah,
not eating it on a regular basis. And I feel 100% better.
that's good.
It's just simple things like, okay, you know what I replace lunch meat with? And even canned tuna I won't eat either because of the mercury that can be in it.
Uh,
I eat canned salmon now.
well, well, I still eat tuna. I get the yellowfin tuna, and I get the steaks, not the can.
Right.
Uh, uh, and then I'll grill them as well. I don't do it as often as I probably should because fish is better for me than some of the other stuff I eat.
Well,
But
canned
I'm
salmon's
I'm
really
not a
healthy.
big fish fan, as I've told people before.
Yeah, canned salmon's really healthy. I just open up the can, I brush off the dark meat and the skin, clean it up a little bit just by brushing some of the stuff off it, feed that to my cats. And then I just mix a little bit of mayonnaise and relish. And
Yeah.
by getting rid of lunch meat and switching to that, it raised a lot of things in my diet. Omega
Hey,
3,
Aileen, how you doing? Well, I'm not like I said. I'm not a big. I've tried salmon. I can eat it, but I really don't care for it. The only fish
and
I actually like is yellowfin tuna.
I make it taste like I make it taste like tuna the way I do it out of the can. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
But you know, it's tweaking this, tweaking that.
Hey, sure,
I got
man.
rid of I got rid of most of the cheese in my diet.
I still eat cheese. I have my pepper jack cheese, and
Well, like I said, you can have everything, but by the time you push everything else out, everything else just naturally drops.
Elvie, about the only seafood I eat is, like I said, yellowfin tuna. I'm not a big fan of fish or seafood.
Like
Most of
jumbo
my
lump crab
family,
meat.
most of my family like at least fish more than I do. And I know my oldest sister and I think my youngest sister both like seafood, but I'm just not a fan of it. Never have been. I used to not eat fish at all. Then I finally tried some tuna because somebody else had it and they had enough. They gave me some because tuna's not cheap. So you don't want to buy something that you're not sure if you're going to like when it costs that much. I tried it. I like it. So I bought some tuna and I cook it up once in a while. Not as much as I probably should.
My favorite way to do tuna is dip it in hot sauce, sprinkle Paul Perdone's blackened fish spice on it, and
Yeah.
grill it. And it doesn't. The hot sauce really doesn't make it real hot because it's only they're
Yeah.
holding the spice on a little bit.
It's like we're talking about expensive. I've never tried lobster, but lobster is not cheap.
It's
So I
not that
really don't want
expensive.
to. Huh?
I said it's not that expensive. I can get lobster for $7 a pound.
Yeah, but do I want to pay $7 for something I may have one bite of and not eat again? That's my.
Lobster.
There are foods out there like liver. I take a one bite of liver, I'm throwing the rest away because I don't like liver. I've tried it and tried
Well,
it.
nobody likes liver, lad. Come on, ick.
Well, my
But
mom and dad
lobster,
love liver and
buy
onions.
buy yourself like a lobster biscuit. Try a lobster roll. You know, a hot dog roll with lobster salad on it. Ooh, baby.
We'll see. We'll see.
You like king crab?
Nope.
You might not like lobster then. They're similar.
And, well, I can't say I do because I've tried clams. I'm not crazy about clams, but I don't know if I've ever tried king crab. I've had octopus. I've had it cooked a couple different ways. One way was not bad. The other way, no, thank you. One was a little more salty, and I really didn't like the saltiness of it.
I like fried oysters, and I like.
And Exec says she likes liver.
Clams. Yeah, I'm not big on it.
Well, like I said, my mom and dad loved liver and onions. They loved it.
Depression food.
Not me. Now, you talk about breakfast food. If I'm going to have breakfast food, biscuit and gravy. But I don't eat that much at all because it's not good for me.
I'm lactose intolerant these days. Recently, I became lactose intolerant. I found out, so I don't do anything dairy anymore. Hardly.
Hey,
no fresh
Cindy, how you doing? Well, I'm not. I started drinking milk again. I quit drinking milk a long time ago, so I started drinking. I don't drink milk every day, but I do drink it now more than I used to. And I still eat ice cream once in a while. Now that's
I
very
can't
seldom.
do either.
I know. Now, have you tried yogurt, frozen yogurt? Can you eat that?
I haven't. I just pushed it all off.
Yeah. I would say a frozen yogurt is similar to ice cream, but I don't think it's dairy.
I can have like what they call. There's an ingredient. There's a thing that you can add to milk and stuff. It's called lactate for lactose intolerant people, and it's an acid that burns off the lactose.
Yeah, they got a type of ice cream. It's not ice cream. It's called lactate or lactate, something like that. It's a brand, and it's for those who are lactose intolerant.
They have it here at the hospital. They offered it to me.
Okay, we'll see. I've had that, but it's not. It's a lot more expensive than regular ice cream.
It really shouldn't have to be because the drops that they put in it to make it lactose free is no big deal.
Yeah. I know, but they charge you a lot more for it.
Well, that's because they know they can.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything, if it's not common, and they take, they're going to take advantage of people that want it. I'm sorry to hear you had a power allergy, Elvie. And Elvie, about a week ago, she's in part of the Philippines that had an earthquake.
Oh,
yeah, but her family's all doing well. Anybody else? Is everybody else doing well from the earthquake that's here? It was a pretty strong one, like 6.8 or 7.2.
That is a big one.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, that Elvie was sleeping one night and they had the aftershock and it woke her up and she said she couldn't go back to sleep, which from being out in San Diego where they do have earthquakes, I can understand that. I mean, but some of those places out there in California, they get an earthquake so much that, unless it's a bigger one, they don't worry about it. But a lot of their houses are built to withstand those 6 and 7s. And all right, only southern Mindanao was really affected. All right. Now, but some of the other areas felt it. I know that.
Larry, I got to jump off and take meds.
All right, come back up when you're ready if you want.
Okay.
Hopefully Dan will stop in later. He does once in a while.
There you go.
All right, take care.
I'll be back.
All right. Hey, Manley, how you doing? You want me to kick you off, or you are going to do it yourself?
I'm jumping.
All right, I'll go ahead and remove you. But how you doing, Manley? Like I said, that was Mac Daddy. Some of you know Mac Daddy. Those that have been following me for a while on live streams. Some of you know that he's been having medical problems, and that's why he's not been in the chat for about 3 weeks, maybe a little longer. He's been in the hospital, and right now he's in a rehab center. He said it's an hour and a half from where he's from, but it's an excellent rehab center. He's doing rehabilitation 3.5 hours a day. He's getting much better. He feels better. He's lost weight. He's been having a lot of trouble with his legs, and he's getting that straightened out. So we're really glad to hear that. He's was saying that he was had to relearn to walk because his legs were so bad he hadn't walked for quite a while. So that's one of the things he has to do his rehab on, is get his strength back in his legs so he can walk more. And so we're just trying to, I reached out to him. I hadn't heard from him in a while, so I reached out to him earlier this week and asked him how he was doing. That's what he told me. And he said he was going to try to make it today, which he did. I'm glad he did. Hopefully he'll come back up. But if anybody else out there wants to come up, any of you want to come up, come on up. You can introduce yourself to people that may not know you. And of those of you that don't know it, all you got to do is type in LLL, and my Nightbot will drop your link for you. So it's easy enough. Just drop in LLL, and my Nightbot will drop it for you. And they'll tell everybody about how many followers you have and stuff like that. So hopefully you'll go ahead and do that. And I like A1, not A2. I like a little even less of the other stuff. I drink what do they call it? It's just one. It's almost a skim milk, but not quite. And I had some notifications I wanted to get rid of. But so yeah, we're doing well. Yes, it is, LV. Like I said, I've known Ed for long. I can't say I knew him, but I knew of Ed long before I ever started vlogging. I met Ed through Chris and Sabu's live streams. It's the same way I met Dan. I met Dan through the same live stream. And we talked back and forth, in the chat like you guys are doing. But we would talk to each other as well as to the host. And so we got to know each other that way. And once Dan started vlogging and I found out about it, I started mentioning his vlogs on Chris and Sabu to get a few people to go there. And I would go to Dan's live streams once he started those. So Dan started long before I did. I shouldn't say long, maybe a year or so before I did. Quite a bit before I did, actually. And then I started doing mine, and Dan's been very supportive. I met Sammy. I don't know if she's in the background or not. I met Sammy through Dan, and she was very supportive. It's like I met Dan, I met LV and a couple others through Dan, and through LV, I met a lot of you that are in the chat right now. So it's just kind of like a networking that we do. I guess we all do it, all of us vloggers. Yes, LV, my shift has changed. Officially, it changed yesterday because Friday's the first day of our pay week. I now work 7 to 3, Monday through Friday, so I have Saturdays and Sundays off. Although I did on Thanksgiving, I went ahead. I was able to work day shift that day because the guy I replaced, his last day was Wednesday. He took Thanksgiving off to spend with his family. They approved it, so I went ahead and worked his day that day, but I was working as a regular guard, not the supervisor. So yesterday was my first day as a supervisor, and but we're getting it. We're getting there. Like I said, I'm 7 to 3. That means I get up around 5 in the morning. So yeah, I got to get up early, and yes, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., not a.m. It's only 8 hours, and I'm pretty sure that's what you meant to type in there. But you got 7 a.m. to 3 a.m., and that would be 20 hours. No, I'm not working 20 hours. I wouldn't have took the job over that. Although that'd be what, 100 hours a week? Ooh, I'd be out of debt in no time. Because 60 hours of that would be overtime. Thank you, exec. Yeah, I really am not that crazy about being a supervisor. I've done it before, but it meant getting back on day shift, and it meant getting back to Monday through Friday. Monday through Friday wasn't as important to me as a day shift was, because I have the 3 to 11 was really hard on my system. That's all right, Elvie. I figured that's what you meant. I would prefer 8 to 4 and get up at 6 instead of 5. But for outside of the couple of months that I've been working the 3 to 11 for the last year and a half, almost about 2 years, I've been working day shift. And out of the day shift of those 2 years, about a year and a half of it was 7 to 3 or 7 to 7. I worked one place where I worked 7 to 3 Thursday and Friday. Then Saturday and Sunday, I worked 7 to 7. So I worked 4 days, got 40 hours in, and had 3 days off. I enjoyed that. It was hard on my live streaming because I could still live stream at that time. But I wouldn't start till 8 because I'd come home and have to go set everything up and be ready to start live streaming. Sometimes it feels like it, Tim. It does. But, you know, I'll tell you the truth, LV, I would rather be retired. But like I said in my Thanksgiving things to be thankful for, is I do actually like the job. And I enjoy the hours, and I enjoy having weekends off. The hardest part of my job is getting up and going into work. Once I get there, I enjoy it. So the 8 hours, like Thursday, my first 8-hour shift on day shift, it was 1 o'clock before I knew it because I was doing some stuff that I don't normally do because of taking over as a supervisor. And I didn't do that on Friday because I don't have to do it every day. There's some things I got to get straightened out, and I was working on that Thursday, and I probably did 4 or 5 hours on it, and it was just like went by it so quick I didn't realize I was working that much. And but that's what happened. I mean, I was just sitting there doing some stuff, and I was playing on the computer. It was work on the computer, which I enjoy. I enjoy working on the computer. I was making up a program or a sheet that I can use for the job to help me keep track of people's schedule. The guy had one, but he forgot to give me a copy of it. And if I just copied it and put it into the computer, it would not let me make revisions to it. So I'm trying to make one up that I can have all the information I need, and I can revise it whenever I need to. And that's what I'm working on right now. It took me a while to figure out which program to use. Because certain programs would kind of let me do it, but they wouldn't let me do anything to it. No, today actually it was. Now last night it got down cold. It was cold last night. It got down, probably about -2 Celsius, maybe a little colder. So when I got up this morning, I looked outside and there was frost all over the windows and everything. But then it got up in the 40s today. So this is typical weather for November. It can get real cold, then warm up. It normally doesn't get up above 50 this time of year. It's usually lows are in the 30s, maybe high 20s, and the highs will be up around 40. And I'll do that for a while. Where it gets really cold and stays cold is, yes, -2. And when it gets cold and stays cold, it's usually in later in December. Yeah, Christmas is just around the corner, and there's a good chance it'll be snowing at that time. That's when it usually snows. Now, down here where I'm living now, I live in the Capital District of New York. It doesn't snow as much as Tim used to live up in Buffalo, and he'll tell you, Buffalo, Rochester area gets a lot of snow. And I used to live up between Buffalo and Rochester. I lived in a little place called Leroy. Also lived for a while in Batavia. And Tim probably knows where Batavia is at fairly well. It's about halfway between Buffalo and Rochester. And we get somewhere between 90 to 100 inches a year up in that area. Now, Tim, was you there when they got that 7 foot of snow back in the, what was that, early 2000s? I'm trying to remember what year that was. About 20 years ago, maybe a little more. Oh, your aunt lived in Batavia. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, you definitely know Batavia. Now, Batavia, yeah, 7 foot of snow. They got it all at one time. It made the national news. And at the same time, Rochester didn't get any snow at all. And back in these days, Rochester used to have what they called a winter festival. And they have kids and families who come down, and they build it up on the streets where kids could play, and they'd have an area where they could maybe do sledding and stuff like that. Well, because of you missed it. You definitely missed the snow. Yeah, Rochester, New York. I used to work in Rochester, one of its suburbs, and so my office, not my office, but the office that I worked out of was actually in Rochester. So I had to go into Rochester for training and to deal with the office people if I had to deal with them. Yeah, that would definitely been over your head. It'd been over my head, Elvie. I'm less than 6 foot. I'm 5'8". I will I'll show some snow. I did last year as well. And I'll do it again this year. I know there's a lot of people that live in areas that don't get snow that like to see it. People like out in California, Southern California, they don't get snow. People in the Philippines find it. And snow is very beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, Tim, they got that 7 foot of snow in one day, too. I was down in New Orleans when that happened. And this was over 20 years ago. Can't say exactly how much, but it was over 20 years ago. And anyway, I was down in New Orleans, and a friend of mine needed to go down there, and they don't like driving long distance. And I drove her family down there. They paid for everything, so I got to go to New Orleans. And we're down there, and it was just before New Year's Day. It was before that. It was after Christmas, but before New Year's Day. And they got 7 foot of snow. So I called my sister, like I said, she lives halfway between. My oldest sister lives halfway between Buffalo and Rochester. So I called her to ask her how much snow they got, and she said they didn't get any. And so it was just that lake effect band that went right through Buffalo and dumped it all on Buffalo, and it's immediate surrounding areas. And that was more to the east, and then my sister, the west, my sister's to the east. So it's got dumped more east of Buffalo than west of Buffalo. And I don't like snow at all, exact. I've been dealing with it all my life. I'm from Indiana. We get snow there too. Nothing like they do in Rochester and Buffalo, no. We probably average, well, my part of Indiana probably averages less than 3 foot of snow in winter. Probably more like 2, about 2 foot for the whole winter. But I can remember winters where we didn't get any snow. I like those winters much better. I can take the cold. I just really don't care for the snow. And it's Indiana. You forgot the A there, exact. But yeah, it's India with an A at the end of it. Now, where do you live, exact? I know you live in an area that looks like it's a lot warmer than where I'm from. But so yeah, it's yeah. I'd rather, if I had to deal with the snow or the cold, I'd rather have cold. Make it colder, keep the snow away, because you can get dressed for the cold. You layer up, and they even got gloves now that you can put on, and they're heated gloves. It will heat up your keep your hands warm because it's heated. And I got insulated boots which keep your feet warm, a lot warmer for a lot longer. They're also waterproof, so the snow won't soak through and get your feet cold. I've got jackets that are, yeah. Now, exact, I don't know how well you know Indiana. My hometown's a place called Terre Haute. For those of you who wondered, Terre Haute is French. All right. Terre is a way of saying land, like almost like clay, but it's land. And Haute is high. The French say it backwards from the English. The English would say high land. The French would say land high, which is Terre Haute. And it's on the high side of the river, Wabash River. And it was one time Indiana was under the control of the French. And so that's how it got its name. It was back when the French were in control of that part of the country. And they just kept the name. And there's not too many places in the world named Terre Haute. There are a few. But my hometown's probably the biggest one that I know of anyway. That's all right, exact. I am the world's worst speller. Thank God for spell check. But see now, the thing is, though, you spelled Indian correctly, so it didn't catch it. And I only know exactly how to spell it because I lived there for well most of my life. I moved out here where I'm at. Moved out here to New York about 25 years ago, maybe a little longer. Actually, a little longer, about 26 years ago. And so I lived most of my life in Indiana, but I also lived in a little place called Illinois. I lived in a place called Casey, Illinois. It's about 40 miles from Terre Haute. And then I was in the service out, so I was in California and Washington State, both. I type pretty good. I just can't spell, Tim. I took typing in high school. I took typing because it gave me a minor in business. We had to take a business class anyway, and that was required for a high school was to take business. So I took business and I took typing and gave me a minor in business. Now that's the only minor I had. You're supposed to have like 3 majors and 2 minors. Well, I had 4 majors and 1 minor. So, because I happen to like math, you had to have English, and you had to have enough English to get a major anyway. Math, I didn't have to. I could have got a minor in it, but I took 3 years of math. I would have took a fourth year if I went the whole year. But I graduated in January my senior year, so I didn't take math that year. I was going to, but I was told one semester of math wouldn't do me any good because it was just going to be going over everything I already had, and they didn't get into the new stuff till after I graduated from high school. I also got a major in history, which I didn't have to have. You could add a minor in history. So, I'm trying to remember. Maybe I did have two minors. Maybe I had a minor in science. I can't remember. A minor or a major in science. I can't remember. It was one or the other. But I think it might have been a minor. I just didn't like study halls. Yes, I was a January graduate, which you're allowed to do back in Indiana. At least you used to. You had to have a certain number of hours, and you had to have certain classes. So as long as you had all the classes that were required and the number of hours required, you could graduate in January your senior year. Now, what a lot of kids did, instead of graduating in January, my youngest sister did this. She went to school half a day and got a full-time job. But I just didn't do that. I just decided I was going to go in the military. I've always wanted to go in the Navy. Well, not Navy. I always wanted to go in the military. Now, it would change from time to time as a younger person. At one time, I wanted to go Army. Then I wanted to go Air Force. I wanted to go Marines, Navy. And just before I had to make the final decision, I was wanting to go Marine Corps. And Vietnam was going on back in these days. When I went in, Vietnam was a conflict we were involved in. And I talked to 3 ex-Marines that I knew. And they all said the same thing. They said they were proud they did it, but they wouldn't do it again. And then there was a family friend who was a sailor who had been in Vietnam for a year and a half, been in combat. He was you ever seen the movie Green Beret? Well, there's a part in there where you see these guys operating heavy equipment. They're out clearing brush and trees away from the base, so the base could be a little safer. They make it harder for the enemy to pick up on the base. And while they're doing that, they come under fire from the bush and had to get in a firefight. Well, my family friend, that's what he did. So he'd been in many a firefight. And a lot of guys, they'd say, "Oh, you're Navy." Then they'd ask him what he did, and as soon as he told them what he did, they'd shut up. These are the Marines, because they knew he's the one that went out and cleared the brush, or the bush, if you wanted to say it that way, to make them safer. And a lot of times they were shot at, so they knew he'd been in combat himself. He wasn't back on base where it was safe. He was out there in the brush with them. And he said he was proud that he did it and would do it again. And so after gathering that information, hello, Benny, I decided I would rather go in the branch that I would proud that I did and would do it again. And I must say this, I am proud that I went in the Navy, and by God, I'd do it again. I enjoyed it immensely. I'm kind of sorry that I didn't stay in and do 20 years. I'd be a lot better off financially, but also I would have enjoyed it. I really would have. I enjoyed my time in the service. Yes, ma'am, Navy, all the way, U.S. Navy. Former sailor. I don't believe in the term ex, because it's a title you earn. I like the way the Marine Corps think about it. Once you earn that title, then it's yours forever because you earned it. So I'm a former sailor, not an ex-sailor. It's like a lot of former Marines, whether they're retired or not, will say they're a former Marines, not an ex-Marine. Don't call them ex; they earned that. And I agree with them. If you earned it, then it's your title for the rest of your life. And so that's the way I look at it. It's my title, sailor, and proud of it. And my older brother was also in the Navy, and we served together on my first ship. All right. There was times that it depends on what you call long. Now, most of the time, I was not out to sea more than a month. Most of the time was less than that. And most of the time, especially my first ship, we didn't go out and play war games. My first ship was a repair ship, a destroyer tender. Its job was in port repairing other ships. That's what it did. That's its whole function. Its whole reason for existing. My first ship was USS Dixie AD-14. Now, the thing about my first ship, the Dixie, is all the tenders of that same class are called Dixie class, because USS Dixie was the first of her kind of that class. And so what they do of a ship, when they come up with a new style of ship, whether it's an aircraft carrier, destroyer, whatever, the first one of that group, the rest of them are called that class. So the Dixie class. No, not too long. I was an E4. That's a third class petty officer. I could have went higher, but that's my fault that I didn't. There was a couple things that happened that all of it's my own fault, so we won't go into all that. But the highest rank I could have got at the time I was in would have been at E5, so I could only been like one more rank higher at that time. So not too bad. In the Navy, as compared to the other branches, I know I can't say about the Air Force, but in the Navy, from E3, after E3, E4 up, and even at E3, you got to take a test. But as an E3, if you pass the test, you're an E3. There is no competition for that rank. And now, for E4 and above, what happens is you have to take a test, and then everybody that took that E4 test or whatever rank you're going for takes that test. You're all competing against each other for however number of openings there are. Now, when I made E4, it was not closed, but you needed like a 60 on the test, maybe a 70. I can't remember. I want to say about 60 on the test to pass it. All right. I got 120 or a little higher. And after each test, you have 3 months to get advanced, or otherwise you have to retake the test later. I got advanced in the third month. Now, I had more than double. I remember that much. I had more than double what was required to pass the test. But I had to wait till the third month because there were just that few billets open for E4s in my job code. So I was a ship serviceman, in case you're wondering. It's a rate that no longer exists. It's been rolled into storekeepers. They were already sister companies, but they rolled them in together later on after I got out, actually later on than that. And much later after I got out, probably about 30 years or more after I got out. But what I did, I was a Navy barber. Yes, that's right. I was a barber. All right, for you guys, it's E5 and above. For us, it's E4 and above. But anyway, I was also worked in the laundry. Worked in the Navy Exchange. I ran the soda fountain or the candy store on ship. Ran the box storerooms. The storerooms where you kept the supplies for your company or your division, actually. So, like all the supplies for the Navy Exchange on ship, I was in charge of the storeroom for it at one time, and also I was in charge of the storerooms for the candy store, the vending machines. You had the cigarette vending machines. You had the pop vending machines, candy vending machines. So I was in charge of all those, and then the supplies from the laundry, the barber shop, and all those different places. I was in charge of that at one time. Also, like I said, I was a barber, so I worked in a barber and had to order that stuff. And then the guy that was in charge of the box storms at that time would bring it up, and he'd mark it down. And they kept track of that. Now, I worked in the candy store, probably more than I did the barber shop. I enjoyed the candy store. We called it the Gita, or the soda fountain. The reason why I enjoyed that, you got to interact with people, and they were in a better mood. As a barber, a lot of the people didn't want their hair cut. This is back in the 70s, and people liked long hair. And so they really wasn't always happy to see you. But it's a job that you did, and they knew you were doing it, but they weren't always happy to see you. Now, the candy store, they came there if they wanted to see you, and you could interact with them and have fun. And so that was that. I started off my very first job in this division, which was S3. That's what our designation was, S3, ship serviceman. It was in the laundry. So I worked in the laundry. I pressed clothes. I washed clothes. I dried them. Depends on what job I was doing at the time. I started off just pressing clothes. I worked my way up to the wash deck. It was a little easier job, but you had to have a little more seniority to get it, which I did eventually. So I did all different kinds of jobs. Now on shore duty, I was on shore duty in Washington State in a place called Pacific Beach, Washington. It was a base of 110 people, mostly men. There was maybe 10 women. Might have been a few more than that, but not very many if there was. I can only recall one female officer. There might have been another, but I can only recall one. And it was... No, you start at E1 exec. Yeah, well, like I said, E1 is where you start at. And then after about 4 months, you put in to become an E2, which I did that because all you had to do was submit a piece of paper, and I did that probably. I might not have been 4 months. I might have been a little over. I was not real quick on doing things. And then after a year, you're allowed to go for E3. Well, I had 2 years in before I went for E3. I just wasn't that interested. I was doing other things. And so anyway, good morning, Larice. Hello, Ann. Crystal Adventures here. Hello. But anyway, like I said, I waited until I had almost 2 years in. And the reason why I did that, not the reason why I waited that long, the reason why I did it at 2 years instead of waiting longer, was by taking the test. At that time, I would get 3 pay raises all at once. Because you don't get over 2 pay as an E2. You do as an E3. So you get I got a pay raise from E2 to E3. Then I went over 2, and I got a pay raise for that. And that October, there was a COLA. A COLA is cost of living allowance, which we get every year. So I got like boom, 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 3 pay raises. And then I stayed there until almost 4 years. I had almost 4 years in before I took E4. And I get to thinking, do I want to get out and tell everybody I could have been an E4, or do I want to take the test and become an E4? And that's the only reason I took the E4 test when I took the E4 test. Was I didn't want to get out and say, well, I could have been an E4, because I could have, anybody can get out and say, I could have done this, and maybe they could, maybe they couldn't. But I didn't want to say I could have without doing it. So I took the test, made E4. Now, I never was able to make E5, and that's my fault. Not because I put it off where I couldn't take it, but because I got myself in trouble. Got busted down to an E3 and had to make E4 back. And before I was qualified to go for E5, my time was up. So like I said, I couldn't be E5 because I put myself in that position. It's not because I couldn't pass the test. I just never was able to take it because of my own stupidity. I put myself in that position. And so I made E4 twice. And that's the only way you make E4 twice. Either you get out and go back in and make it again, or you get busted. There's only 2 ways to do it. I got busted and made it again. And you could probably start as an officer, but I went in straight out of high school, so I didn't have a degree. They don't consider high school diplomas a degree. And so I went into the Navy right out of high school. Like I said, I graduated in January, and I went in the Navy in March. And I graduated January 20th, which is my mother's birthday. And on January 20th, after which was a Friday that year, my mom got off work, and my dad and my mom and myself, we drove to Iowa, which is where my cousins were living at the time. And I stayed up there for about a month and visited with my cousins. And I took the bus back to Terre Haute for about a week or so. Then I went in the Navy. And I went in the Navy March 3rd, which once again was a Friday, which, yeah, I got 3 pay raises by taking the test. It was like, that was just too good of a reason to take the test to pass it up. And because, like I said, there was always going to be that one pay raise going from E2 to E3. It just wasn't my thing. I wasn't that interested. But when I was like, all right, you can get 3 now, because I couldn't get you over 2. And so it was like, hey, I got 3 coming, and I get a bigger one on the 3rd one than I would if I don't take the test. And I don't get the other 2 without taking the test. I took the test. And all you had to do to make E3, all you got to do is pass the test. But you have to take it. Like I said, at E2, you just submit a piece of paper. It's a request. But you fill out a request stating, hey, look, I've been in the Navy this long. And you submit it to up the chain of command. And as long as you've not been in trouble, they're going to give you the E2. Which I'd never been in trouble like that at that time. So I got the E2, no problem. Same thing with E3. And yes, like I said, I'm glad I did make E4 because, like I said, I didn't want to be telling people, oh, I could have made E4, and then I never tried. And I didn't think that would be right. I'm sure there's people that say that. And some of them maybe could have, and some of them may be lying through their teeth knowing they couldn't make it because maybe they took the test and flunked it. And I went straight out of high school. I joined the Navy and got sworn in on what they call inactive duty in December of 71. And I went active March 3rd, 1972. And like I said, it was a Friday. And if I was doing it over again, I would probably go in on the 6th, which is a Monday, maybe the 5th on a Sunday. But I would not go in again on a Friday because I got there on Friday and we did absolutely nothing for the whole weekend. And I did not start boot camp itself. Start accumulating time to graduate until that Monday. And because you had to be put into a company, they did not form the companies till that Monday. And so it made things a little more difficult. Because you sit around the whole weekend as a group. Some of you are going to be in the same company and some of you are not. Because they have formed a bunch of companies. And there was enough that I know they formed at least 2 companies the same day, 86 and 87, 086 and 087. I was 086. And our company commander was Kirkaby. He was a first class. And he was a SEAL and he had ribbons. You wouldn't believe how many ribbons and medals he had. And we were known as Kirkaby's Clowns. We are a ragtag group, let me tell you. Oh, well, Zach, like I said, these are things that have changed your life. These are life-changing events. So you're going to remember those life-changing events. I got out on a Monday. Like I said, I went in on a Friday, got out on a Monday. Actually, it was Monday, October 16th. And so that was my last weekend in the Navy. I didn't go home till the 20th because I hung out with some friends out in Washington State and went home on the 20th and got home on the 20th. But yeah, there's certain things there's things I did while I was in the Navy I'm not going to remember as well because they were just mundane, everyday stuff. But there's certain things that happen, and this is whether you're in the service or somewhere else, that are life-changing events. Now, graduating from high school is a life-changing event. You're now out of high school for the first time. You're really considered an adult by a lot of people. And then I went into the Navy, which, you know, I couldn't tell you the day I can tell you the day of the month, but I can't tell you the day of the week that I was sworn in to the Navy on inactive service. The day of the month was Cal King. Was December 27th, but I don't remember what day it was of the week, because that really wasn't a life-changing event. Boot camp was 10 weeks when I was in. No, boot camp for the Navy is close to the ocean. Army and Marine Corps are probably a little more in the woods. But no, we weren't by the ocean, but we weren't far from it. Now, my brother went to Great Mistakes or Great Lakes, and that was by the Great Lake, Michigan. Lake Michigan is up around Chicago, and yeah, you got to be around. You're normally pretty close to a large body of water for boot camp in the Navy. There again, you're in the Navy. What do you expect? Hey, yeah, how you doing? And there you go. Any of you that want, just like Kyle King just did there, just type in LLL. It could be capital, it could be small, or it could be a combination. And my Nightbot will drop your link. All right. And it tells you how many subscribers you have. Now, it doesn't tell you what your content's about, but it does do that. So it lets people look you up if you like. And like I said, I'm here more for my entertainment. So if I can help you guys out, I'm more than willing to do it. I'm not, I'm larger than I thought I would ever be. And which is fine. I like the fact that I'm larger than I thought I would be. But so yeah, it just if I hit 1,000, I'll be as happy as all get out. I already told LV if I hit 1,000 subscribers, we'll have another celebration like we did for my birthday. Because I want to give back to my subscribers, and so. But like I said, if I don't hit 1,000, I'm not going to die over it. I'm just not going to cry, because right now I work 40 hours a week, and I don't want to make YouTube a job. I want to keep it like it is, where I enjoy doing it. I think I can still enjoy it as 1,000 because I'm not going to get monetized, people. I'm just not going to do it. Maybe later on in life, later down the road, maybe, but not right now. I'm not interested in that because I want to keep it as a hobby. And 1,000, it's still a hobby to me. This is something I enjoy doing. I want to keep it that way. And so it just, we got to keep it going and try to keep things happy. And remember, people, if you haven't already, hit the like button if you would. I'd appreciate it. Man, that can't be right. Show me 147. That can't be right. How did I get that many likes? That's better. That one looks more real. It says 23. I'm willing to believe that one. But hey, Sammy, too bad you weren't at Dan's live stream last night. You would have won some money. Your name was drawn. Your number was drawn. And hey, Robert, how you doing? If either one of you want to come up, come on up. Like I said, if you want, go ahead and type the 3 L's in and get your channels dropped. Sammy and Robert both have channels. Oh, you were driving at that time yesterday, huh? Yeah, okay. Dan was telling people to give you a call and let you know. So, but yeah, you guys missed it. Ed was here. Ed D. Beck was here. He'd been in the hospital for about 3 weeks. He's still in the hospital. He's in the rehabilitation center right now. He'd been out sick. He had, if you might remember that he was talking about how he's having trouble with his legs. Well, he's finally got them under control. They had to take some physical therapy because he wasn't able to walk around so much. He had to relearn to walk and get his strength back in his legs. And they got him on a diet, changed his diet, what he eats. He's lost some weight. He looks better with that lost weight. And he says he feels a lot better. So hopefully he'll come back up. But we'll see. He had to drop down and take some medication, but I don't know what the medication does to him. And yeah. So anyway, we're just here. And oh, Sammy, I think you watched my giving thanks video. So yeah, I started my day shift. Now I'm working Monday through Friday, 7 to 3. So I'm off today and I'm off tomorrow. So that makes me feel better. But like I said, go ahead, Sammy and Robert, drop into 3Ls, get your channels out there. But so anyway, we're just trying to relax and enjoy myself. Now, I'm going to have to start getting the habit of going to bed around 10 o'clock at night. I don't want to do it at 7. Now, tonight I don't have to. I slept in today, so it'll probably be a little tough to get to sleep at 10 tonight, so I'll probably stay up to 11. But like I said, I have to get up at 5 in the morning on the days I work now so I can get ready to go to work. I drank about 36 ounces of coffee today. That's about what I drink on the days I work as well. That's about 3 12-ounce cups is what I drink. And that's fine, Sammy. We appreciate you coming. We appreciate all the help you guys give me. Like I was saying earlier, I was telling how I met people. I met Dan and Ed through Chris and Sabu. And then I met you and Robert through Dan. And then I met some others through you guys. And then I met LV and a few others through Dan. And then I met a lot of people that's in the chat right now. I either met through Dan or LV. And like I said, probably a few there from you, like Tim. I think I met Tim through you, I believe. Could have been Dan, but I was thinking I met him through you. And so now if Danny would show up, it would be Danny through you as well. But Danny's not here today. So like I said, I mean, there's a few people that follow me that I met through you, and which is good. I don't know if anybody noticed it, but I am up to 710 subscribers now, which it still shocks me. I was surprised when I got to 300, well along 700. And yeah. And the thing about my 300th subscriber, that was my little sister. I showed her when I was at 298, so her husband made it 299, and she joined and made it 300. This last year when I was home on vacation, when I did all those cover bridge videos. So, I'll have to try to do some more when I go home again. Maybe this time it'll be during the summer months, and then there'll be more green around it instead of bare trees. But it's still it's a very nice Park County's a very nice county. In a lot of states, counties are subdivisions of the state, and then of each county they'll have cities and villages and stuff like that. We call In Indiana, what we call a town is a small city or a large village, depending on how you look at it. Now, I live in New York, and a town is not that. A town is something like a smaller subdivision of the county, whereas what they call a town, we call a township, and what we call a town, they call a village. I'm talking about Indiana. We call it a town. Here in New York, they call it a village. We call it a township in Indiana. Here, they call it a town. So, like I said, depending on where you're at, the definition of the word, so it's kind of hard to tell people that without, it's a long drawn out thing, but that's all right. But yeah, I tell you, I was surprised. Really, what I did to Thanksgiving one, it did a lot better than I thought it would. I thought maybe 50 views, and that'd be about it. And it's also when I put up that one about the fence being broke. I didn't think that would do it anywhere near as well as it did. And that was about 2,500 views. That shocked the heck out of me. But that's fine. I do have a couple more videos. I was wanting to do one on a Korean restaurant that's here close to me. It's called Korean Street Food. But every time I go by, it's closed. So I don't know if they've not opened yet. Because I've never noticed them until, was it last week or the week before? I want to see, a little over a week ago. It's the first time I noticed their name. So they may still be setting everything up, trying to get all their state and county permits, for business. Because here in the States, you got to have permits to serve food. You got to have a permit if you want to serve alcohol. You got to have a different permit for that. And so I don't know if they have all their permits. Yeah, well, Sammy, I love visiting your channel. I might try to make a couple of lives now that I've changed shifts. It's a little harder before. It might still be a little too hard, but we'll try. If nothing else, to pop in and say hi. I have been trying to watch your videos and your shorts. And I don't mean the shorts you're wearing, Sammy. I couldn't resist, Sammy. I'm sorry. But, yeah, it's just, yeah. Oh, by the way, I as I told many of you, this new job is paying me better than I've ever been paid before. Now, before I got the promotion, it was probably my second best paying. Before, like I said, I had one. When I worked for the same company I worked for, but I worked for the state. I was contracted to the state, and that one paid better than what I was getting before I got the promotion. Now I got the promotion. This one pays better than the state. So, I've been doing fairly decent most of the time, but there's been some times I was not making anywhere near as much money. Let me put it to you this way. I'm over $5 an hour more than a couple of jobs I've worked down here for the same company. And for those of you that are good with math, $5 an hour for 40 hours is over $200 a week. We're doing basically the same job. There are subtle differences when you go from one place to another. I worked at a trucks gatehouse before, making, like I said, $5 an hour less than I'm making now. And it was a worse job than the one I got now. A lot worse. As far as, no. I'm making that much more than what I was making at a different job site. So $5 an hour at 40 hours a week is $200. I'm making over $20 an hour. Okay. I'm not going to say the exact amount, but I'm over $20 an hour. I was at almost $19 an hour before the pay raise. I'm over 20 now. When I was at the state, I was over 20. So, like I said, no, I'm just talking about how much more. The job I had before I got the job now, I'm not talking about the supervisor. I was only making $15.50, and I moved to where I'm at now. I got about a $3 an hour raise, and then I got this promotion, and it's about a $2 an hour raise, actually a little over $2. So it took it up over $5 an hour over the other job. So that's over $200 a week, and the job is no harder. Actually, it might be a little easier, but it's very similar to the job I was doing, except for I was in a little workspace. This is when I was at the Cisco warehouse. I had to stay in one area most of the time. So that made it worse for me because I like to move around. Now, the job I'm at, I can't move around as much as I like, but I can get out and walk around, and it pays a whole lot better. And I don't get to interact with the people as much as I did at the other job. But for the difference in money, I'll not interact with the people that much. And the drive is about the same length. It might be a little bit longer drive, but it's about the same length because I can drive faster. I take the highway. So I'm sorry to hear that, Annie. I hope he gets feeling better. Sorry to hear your boy's sick. And there's so many. You got the cold, you got the flu, and young kids interact with other young kids, and they spread the disease. Like I said, well, my oldest sister, and I hate to keep bringing her up, but my oldest sister was a school teacher, grade school teacher. And they'll tell you, grade school, especially kindergarten teachers. My sister didn't teach kindergarten, but I think she was like second grade or something like that. But grade school teachers get sick a lot when they first start working as teachers because all these kids come in and they got all these different diseases. And if you've not been exposed to it, well, then you're going to get it. The other kids are going to get it. And then eventually everybody builds up pretty much a decent immune system. And then later on, it's fewer and farther between that you get sick. The longer you're teaching, the more, the better it gets. Same thing with the kids. The longer they're in school and they're exposed to all these things, they eventually get immune to a lot of the stuff. And you're still flus are still flus. We still want to get those. But well, that's because they're coming in contact with diseases they don't normally come in contact with because of all the other kids. That's why they're always getting sick. And it really is. It's just you're exposed to a lot of things that you're not exposed to at home. Yeah, vitamin C really helps. And but yeah, it's so my sister taught for years until her boys started. When she started having kids, she quit teaching until the boys got back into school. And when they got into school, she went back to substituting. She didn't take a full-time job. She just did substitute teaching. And the reason why she did that, if one of her kids was sick, they call her up, ask her to come in. She can say, "No, I got to stay home. My son's sick. Whichever son is sick. Hey, Abby." And then that would be this, plus she had all the same holidays off that her kids had. I mean, if it was a Christmas, if there's a lot of times teachers have to go in with the kids don't. Well, by being a substitute, she didn't have to go in. She could stay home with her kids. And that's what she did. And she went back to teaching. I think it was after her youngest went to college. Now, it might have been after the oldest went because there are 3 years between them. Well, she went back to college to get her master's in teaching. Where her youngest one, he might have been in high school still. But at one time, she's in college, and both her boys were in college. And the oldest one was in law school. He's a lawyer. And the youngest one and her were going to college. I think they went to the same school. Now, he was studying French or Spanish or computers. He studied all that stuff. And but she ended up getting her master's. Then she went to work in a ladies' prison and taught women in prison to get their GEDs. and she helped them do that until the people she was working for lost the contract. Then she did GEDs on TV, and so she kept working up until she decided to retire. In her, I want to say it was early 60s, might have been late 50s. Her and her husband both, he retired in his late 50s. Due to his company he was working for cut back on help. They laid a lot of people off, and he got the layoff, but he was able to take a small enough buyout, or there was if you had so many years and you got so much money, well, he took like maybe half of what he was allowed each month, so he could spread it out twice as long, which got him to his Social Security. And that's when things loosened up for him, because they were, like I said, they were in good shape. The house was paid for. They saved money. They did real well, and they're doing real well. But yeah, it's like I said, I can't say anything about what my situation without saying it's my fault. I mean, I made the decisions. If I spent money on a woman, it was because I did it, not because she asked me to. If I wasted money on something else, it was because I did it, not somebody else did it. There's an old saying that when you point a finger at somebody else, there's three more pointing back at yourself. Some people say four, but they're not four. The thumb's usually pointing up. And you got three pointing right back at you. And that's usually what it is. 401ks came out. I was in my 30s, and I was working a job, and this is my fault, nobody else's. I did not realize that you can take the 401k with you to the next job. And by the time I realized that, I was already counting on the money I had coming in. So it was kind of hard to say, all right, yeah, let's do it, because I'd have to cut back on things that I really couldn't afford to cut back on. Because I was having my utilities, my apartment, my gas, my car. Well, the car I paid cash for. But you still had your insurance, your repairs, and stuff like that. And it didn't leave a whole lot of money if I tried to put money back in a 401k. Now, if I'd have done it when they first offered it to me, I would have adjusted my everything accordingly. And that's what I should have done. But like I said, I didn't realize I could take it with me. And I'll tell you the truth, I never did leave the job. I'm still doing the same thing, just somewhere else. And I've made more money, but I just never got into it. And that's my fault. Like I said, I don't blame anybody for my situation but me. There's no one to blame but me. I have to take the credit. I take the credit for everything good I've done, and I got to take the credit or the blame for every bad thing I've done. It's all been me. It's nobody else's fault. And so, I believe in taking responsibility, or if you're going to take the credit, you got to take the blame when it's your fault. And like I said, I've been a supervisor before. Now, as a matter of fact, I was a supervisor when I left Indiana to come out here to New York. And I was basically what I am now, except for I was a shift instead of a post supervisor. And at that place, I even had more people working under me than I do where I'm at now. But when I left there, like I said, I went out to Rochester area. And I got a job working as a regular guard, not a boss, just a regular guard, making more money per hour. Now, it cost me more to live in New York, but I had better benefits because my job gave me excellent health care and excellent dental care. So I had excellent medical and excellent dental. And after a year, I got a really big pay raise, which put me in a lot better shape. And every year for a long time, I got what they call a COLA, which is a cost of living allowance. So my pay kept going up. Well, 1,000 per payday is more than what I really want to put in, especially now that I'm 70. I want to get my bills paid off. So once I get my bills paid off, I'll start putting that money in a savings account. And then when I figure I'll have my bills paid off in about a year. Might be a hair over, but it's going to be right about a year. Might be a hair quicker too, the way things are going. We all got to see. Because I'm not going to just not do anything. That's not me. I can't do that. It's just not me. Well, it should be, but it's not. Not here in the States. It's not free. Now, I get decent medical through the VA, and I don't pay for that. But at that time, I wasn't in the VA system. I got in the VA system because they took my medical away from me. The job I was doing. I had really, really good medical insurance, and it cost me very little. And when they took that away, what they offered me cost me a lot more money. If I'd got it, it cost me a lot more money, and not even half as good as what I had. Well, the VA was free, and it was better than what they were offering me. So I went to the VA. As a veteran, I was allowed to do that. That's what I do, and I'm still in the VA system. Now I get Medicare, but the VA will not charge Medicare. So I could go to a civilian doctor, but it would cost me more money than going through the VA. So it just doesn't make sense. I'll stay with the VA. But like I said, it just, you got to look at the whole thing, what's going on, what's not going on. And for me, it's, I'm trying to think of how to say this. I enjoy being in the VA system. I think they do quite well. Now, like any medical system, I'm talking to hospitals too, unless you're paying a backside full of money. It's not, there's going to be things that you may not agree with. And even if you're paying a backside load of money, there may be stuff they do that you don't agree with. But overall, they do an excellent job, if you ask me. I mean, I don't know if you can see that right there, that white spot. That's precancerous. I get treated for that every year for free. I pay for the medicine. The medicine, if I bought that with Medicare and not through the VA, it would cost me a lot of money. It cost me very little. At one time, it's because I didn't do things that they wanted me to do. They had me on insulin. And the thing about the insulin, I didn't really need it, but if you bought the insulin through a different healthcare system or just paid straight out, the healthcare system I was on that was really good, I'd have paid $30 a month for my insulin. I paid $5 a month through the VA. Then it went up to $8. I think now it might be $9. But I don't use insulin anymore. Turns out I didn't need it. But that was discovered after I used it for a while. And it was discovered because I forgot it. I was on vacation. I left it in the hotel. When I went back, it wasn't available. They couldn't find it, couldn't get to it. So I went about a week without using it, and it turned out my blood sugars didn't change. And so I showed that. So I went ahead and kept off of it because I had another week or so before I was going to see the doctor. I just said, I'm not going to take it until I go see the doctor. So I showed him my readings. He says, if your readings are like that, he says, don't take it anymore. You're done with it. So I quit taking insulin. And I haven't taken it any since. And that's been 6 years. So I've been off insulin for quite a while. Yeah. That's all you can do is try to enjoy your life. That's what I do. I do like the job I'm doing. I agree. I would love to see the medical and dental free, especially medical, like they have it in Canada. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, if we did that, taxes would be a lot higher. Your taxes, that something has to pay for it, so nothing's totally free. You just pay a little higher in taxes, and then you get your medical. That's what you do. You have to take the good with the bad. But I think part of the problem, you talk about Medicare or not Medicare, welfare. A lot of women stay on welfare because if they get off, they lose the health care for the kids. And they're not making that much money, so it's really tough for them to get off. And so I think they should, at least for all kids up to a certain age, medical should be free. So this way, parents, if their mother is on welfare, if she gets off and gets a job, her kids, she don't have to worry about paying for medical for her kids because it's still covered. Another thing I'd like to see, this is my personal thinking, there should be a limit on anything under a certain amount of money should not be taxed, period. Okay? Yeah, but sometimes the women get pregnant and the man leaves them. That's how come they end up on it, because the man left. Some men are dogs. You know that, Zach. Come on. There are dogs out there. They'll get the woman pregnant and then they don't want to be responsible, so they take off. That happens. Now, sometimes it's the woman's fault that she gets more than one kid. That's her fault. But now, like I said, you can't put it all on the woman. And, but like I said, though, getting back to the income, I don't care what they decide to make it at, 20,000, 30,000. I mean, for a single person, and then it's so much for two people. Where if you're making under this, you pay no taxes. Now, what you got to do to make it fair, that first 20,000, whatever it is, everybody subtracts that. Nobody pays taxes on that first 20,000 or whatever amount they want. Okay, I agree with you, but then so that way, if you're out there and you make that $20,001, you're not paying taxes on all of that because you're losing money. So if you only tax for whatever is over that 20,000, that's all you are taxed for. You gain by getting pay raises and stuff, and that helps. I don't think so. I think that's too much money. I think I should pay taxes, and I don't make anywhere near that. But like I said, I do think there is a limit, and like I said, if you're a family, then it goes higher. I'm talking about any individual who's making $100,000 can afford to pay taxes. I'm sorry. Any individual who's making over $50,000 can afford to pay taxes. I'm sorry if they're single. Now, if you got a wife and a couple kids, that should be deducted from what you're making, which lowers your taxes. But I'm a firm believer we got to pay our taxes. Now, I'm not saying you can't charge more money with it depends on where you live. Where I live, $100,000, that's a lot of cash. That is a whole lot of cash. And if you go to the Midwest, that is a whole lot of cash. Even with inflation, believe me. If you can't live on half that in the Midwest or even here where I'm at, you're spending too much money. If you can't live on $50,000, now I'm not talking about New York City, Chicago, LA, anywhere in California. I'm not talking about those kind of places. Okay, I'm not talking about those places. Yeah, we all live according to our expenses, but what I'm saying is, there's nothing. That's the same thing about a billionaire. He lives according to his expenses. He lives according to what he's got coming in if he wants. Now, you want to tax him really bad. No, I mean, yeah, tax him. Don't get me wrong. Don't give him any tax breaks. I'm sorry. But yeah, businesses should be taxed. There should not be, we don't have to pay taxes because we do this, and this. No. You pay taxes. And anybody that moves their business out of the country pays taxes on that business. You can't. And probably at a higher, I would just say, if you take your company out of business, out of the state, out of the country, and still doing business inside the country, you pay double the taxes you would if you kept your business here. Double the taxes, if not more. That's to discourage them from doing that. It's like, no. Keep your company here, keep the jobs here in the States, let's keep people employed. And let's have I'm not, like I said, I'm not against people paying more money if they got more money. And I'm not against a flat tax. And a flat tax is everybody pays the same percentage. There's no deduction. So let's say it's 10% of whatever over 30,000, whatever you want for a single person, 60,000 for a couple, and it may be 100,000 for a family of four. All right, I can see that maybe, but you pay that 10% over whatever it is, over that, and there is no deduction. Or you pay 15% or 20%. Just have a flat tax rate, and you can't deduct it. No, by the way, if you're paid in stocks and bonds, you still pay taxes on that too. You're not getting out of pay, because that's what a lot of these rich guys do. They'll take their payment, they'll take their income in tax and stocks and bonds, and they don't have to pay any taxes until they sell that. No. You're paying taxes on what it's worth then, and by the God, if it makes more money next year, you're going to pay taxes on that. Get rid of those loopholes. Let's get rid of them. Let's get the money. We need to pay off bills. So, like I said, I'm not against taxes. I think it needs to be reformed in a way that is more equitable for everyone. Now, the rich guys are going to say, well, now you're taxing us heavy. Well, we're just taxing you the way you should be taxed. You've been getting all these loopholes because you're in with the politicians. You got that right. No tax breaks. I don't think there should be a tax break for anybody. And if you're going to have a tax break, then I don't really consider this a good reason, but for donation to charity. Subtract that from, but it's actually got to be donated. I donate to charity, and I never claim it. To me, it's not charity. It's not. I'm really not being charitable if I claim it as a tax break. So, that's just my way of thinking. So I can understand if they decide they want to give a tax break to people who donate to charities. But as far as a tax break, because, I bought this car, or I bought this mansion, or I bought this, or I bought that. No. And like I said, and if you take stocks and bonds, you pay taxes on it as soon as you get it. The same amount you would pay on your income. Some will still take the stock and bonds, but some will start taking the cash. And then you pay your people, are taxed on their profit from their savings account too. So, so they should be, unless they lost money on that stocks and bonds, they got to pay taxes on the windfalls on it. Well, hey, Robert, how you doing, man? If you want, come on up. Long time no see. Like I said, I have nothing against people retiring early if they can afford it, but I don't think it should be a right. But let's get rid of the loopholes, and those that are making the right kind of money and doing what's right with it, which, hey, I didn't when I was younger, can retire earlier. If I'd have treated my money correctly when I was in my 20s, 30s, and later, I could have been retired already. I could have had a couple different jobs that was that if I would have been smart enough to take them, that I could have been retired already. Like I said, I can't. I don't know. I've not looked to see if he's still got a YouTube up or not. Last time I looked, he still was up, but he hadn't posted anything in about a year. And so I don't know what's going on with Chris. You missed Robert Edward D. Beck was here earlier, Big Mac Daddy. But He said something about coming back, but that's been a while, so I don't know if he's going to make it back or not. Dan's not been in tonight. If he is, he's in the background. And to be exact, I don't think of it as charity if I'm going to deduct that from my taxes. That's just a tax deduction to me. And I don't donate a whole lot. I only donate to things I really care about, such as the Marine Corps have a Toys for Tots drive. I usually give them some money. I had a sister who had breast cancer. So I will donate to breast cancer. I got a cousin who died from leukemia, so sometimes I'll donate to leukemia drives. Then once in a while, there's some veteran things that'll come about, and I'll donate to that. Like today, I was shopping, and the place I was at, which is a hardware store, Lowe's, they asked me if I wanted to round up, and for USO, which is a organization that puts on shows and does stuff like that for veterans overseas. And so, I told them to go ahead and round my bill up. And so I'll do the same thing at one place for Red Cross. And Red Cross, I have what they call the Red Kettle Drive. And I won't do it every time I walk out, but every once in a while I'll walk out and give all the loose change and a bill or two into the kettle to help them out. Oh yeah, they started off the income tax wasn't even around till when was that? World War One, I think, somewhere back in there, to help pay for the war. And that's all it was supposed to have been, and then they just got rid of it. The thing about bureaucracy, and this is probably the same in every country, but at least here in the United States, if you create a bureau, a bureaucracy, like in the States, they have here in New York, they have the Toll Road Authority. And all right. Glad to hear you're getting ready to go back to the Philippines. I know you'll enjoy it, so will your family. But they have what they call the Toll Road Authority. And the toll road was only supposed to last so long. Well, they keep improving, we got to do this, and they keep raising the rates for the toll. And for a long time, it employed some people because you had the toll booths. Well, then they decided to get rid of all the toll booths. So the ones that had it, they retired some of the operators, and then the others, they gave them jobs somewhere else, but they're still charging your tolls. They took over the Erie Canal because they were afraid they were going to lose their bureaucracy. And if you're a bureaucrat, you try to find ways that they won't shut down your bureaucracy, your bureau, because if you do, you're going to lose $100,000, $200,000 job. Now you actually got to go out and work instead of a state job, which has a really good retirement plan, really good benefits when you retire, a really large income and all that. They don't want to give that up. So whenever they create a new bureau, one of the first things it does is try to make sure they have ways of never going out of business. Yeah, I've also donated to the police force. Not as much, because if you donate to the wrong one, it really doesn't help the police as much as you may think, because that charity takes a lot of the money and keep it for themselves to pay themselves. What I really want to do is I try to look at the charities that 90% of the money you give go to the charity. I try to find ones that don't take more than 10% for their operation, and they are out there. I might go as high as 20%, but I really don't like going that high. Toys for Tots, you donate the money. Almost all of it goes because the Marine Corps are operating it. Most of that money goes right to buying toys for kids, underprivileged children. So I really think that's a good one. Red Cross, well, they use their money mostly to help victims of disasters, natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, that kind of stuff. So I like to donate to those kind of things. And like I said, I've donated to Leukemia Foundation. I've donated to the Breast Cancer Foundation because that directly affected my family. And like I said, my oldest sister had breast cancer. Like I said, I'm going to mention her a lot, I guess. But my cousin Linda, who was a year younger than me, she died of leukemia when she was only 20. And I was over in Japan, so I didn't get to go to her funeral. In some ways, I look back, I'm kind of glad. Because when I was home before she died, she was in remission. She was healthy. She was enjoying life. And that's the way I want to remember her. And so that is the way I remember her. A friend of mine from my Navy days, he met my cousin through me. They were married when she died. He was on shore duty at Crane, Indiana, because of her hardship, because of her being sick. And he stayed in. He ended up doing 20 years. He stayed in another. He was supposed to got out after 3, I think it was. And he ended up doing another 4. It was supposed to be after 4, and he did 3 more. Then he got out, was out for a few years, didn't like it, went back in, and did his 20. I haven't talked to him in a long time. But yeah. But yeah, those are things that you, like I said, certain things you remember, you'll always remember. It depends on which taxes, but yeah, I would like to do away with the income tax totally and do sales tax and maybe raise this, but not have sales tax on food, or clothing under $100 or whatever, but everything else. The more expensive item that you buy, the higher the taxes. Let's say these luxury yachts, they should be taxed up. You know what? Same thing with anything. I mean, you want a Rolls Royce, you should pay a much higher tax on that than you do on a Honda. So because you can get by without a car. You may have to. It may not be easy, but it can be done. You just got to live near a bus line and work close to a bus line. Now you may have to leave for work a little earlier, but it can be done. And so, like I said, I mean, so the newer the car, the higher the tax, and there's no deducting. You can't say, "Well, I'm buying this for my business." I don't care what you're buying it for. You pay taxes on it. You're not paying taxes on your income. You're going to pay tax on this. Yeah, that's true, exact. Like I said, her brother George, and I were best friends growing up until they moved to Iowa. That's the family I went and visited in Iowa before I went in the Navy. Now, George and I are 11 days apart. Linda was a year younger than us. But they were my best friends until, like I said, until they moved away. And we stayed close friends. Now, George's family moved back to Terre Haute. When I went in the Navy, they moved back while I was in the Navy. And that's where Linda was at when she passed away. So whenever I went home after they moved back, I got to visit with them. So now when I go home, I get together with my cousin George and my best friend from my junior high and high school days, Dave Tarr. And we'll get together and go out and have something to eat, the 3 of us, because we're all good friends. And then Dave runs the American Legion, which is for veterans there in Terre Haute. He's the manager of it. And he's responsible for hiring and firing the employees there and ordering whatever they need to order and all that good happy stuff. And Dave's a former Marine. George was a former Army. Like I said, I'm a former Navy. I don't drink and drive, but I'll go in and have a few Cokes and talk with Dave and his wife, Lisa. Usually at least once while I'm home, but sometimes more. And so, like I said, I still have good friends back home that I can get together with and visit and enjoy my time at home along with my family. Because I consider George more than a family. Like I said, he's pretty much my best friend my entire life. Like I said, we're only 11 days apart. Our brothers were sisters, so we were always together until they moved up. We was always spending time together as our families were until they moved up to Iowa. And we were about 5 or 6 years old when that happened. So the first 5, 6 years of our life, we were tighter than brothers. And then every year they'd come back to Terre Haute and visit. And we'd go up to Iowa and visit. And we stayed close. And yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter what you're buying for it. And food should not be taxed unless it's restaurant food. Now, I can see taxing if you go into a restaurant, having that tax. I'd prefer not to have that taxed either. Yeah, Robert, I do plan on moving to the Philippines unless something happens where my health will prevent it. But I want to get away from the winter. I got cousins down in Florida. My cousin Paula, which is George's older sister, she lives down in Florida, but I don't want to go down there. It's just not something I want to do. It's like Texas. Texas is a nice place too, but it's not where I want. Part of the problem with Florida and Texas, let's be honest about it, is the political climate here in the United States. So many people, if you're on the other side of the political fence than they are, they can't stand you because you got people that hate anybody that's Republican. You got Republicans who hate anybody that's Democrats. And both extremes are idiots. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of the snow and the cold. I can take the cold more than the snow, but I'm tired of it. So, yeah, when I retire, I want to move to the Philippines. My first place I want to go to is Cebu. See how I like it there. I hear that's a good landing spot for when you first go. Now, I've been to the Philippines before when I was in the Navy. Been there a couple of times, but you add it up, it's only about 3 months total, maybe a little over. And it was all in 74, 75. Actually, take that back, it was 75. And when I was there. So, it's something that I enjoyed. And I worked with a lot of Filipinos when I was in the Navy. They worked in supply, which is what I was in. We worked side by side, worked together, ran around with a couple of them, and had great respect for their work ethic, their intelligence, and their friendliness. So, I knew that before I ever went to the Philippines. So I had a good impression of Filipinos before I ever went there. And so it's, like I said, I don't know if I can take it or not. Let's be honest about it. Nobody knows anything until they try. Now, I'm going to enjoy the first month or two there, no matter what. You got that, what they call the honeymoon phase. But will I be able to take it when I go into a store and they don't have what I want? And maybe they don't have a backup for it. So let's say you go in wanting a, who knows, a certain kind of chocolate, and they don't have it, but they got something else that's similar. Or maybe they don't have any chocolate at all. I doubt they ever have chocolate, but let's just use that as an example. Are you going to a restaurant and you want a hamburger and they don't have it? So you order a chicken. Well, we're out of chicken. So you have to go somewhere else to get something to eat. Can I handle that? The only people I know in the Philippines I know through YouTube. There's Dan and Minnie Journey. Now, when I first started following Dan, they were still in the States. They were out in California. Tim Diziak, however Tim pronounces his last name. He's in the Philippines. Elvy's in the Philippines. A lot of the people in the chat are in the Philippines. Those are the only people I really know in the Philippines right now. Anybody that you talk about, do I know anybody personally that's gone over? No, but it doesn't matter. It's what I want to do. Good morning, ABCM. How you doing? Welcome. And if you're right, good morning there, good evening here. But anyway, so like I said, it's something. Like I said, I've been to the Philippines, but it was back in the 70s, the mid 70s. So I know everything's changed. I know, especially where I was in Subic Bay. That is totally different. I don't even know I want to go to Subic Bay. Right now, I know there's certain things about that area that I would enjoy. I know their infrastructure is a little better than some other places. They also, when I say infrastructure, I mean the roads, the sewer system, all that, because all that was developed when the Navy was there. The Navy, the Marine Corps was in Subic. So a lot of that was put into place then, and they've kept it up. I think they follow the traffic rules a little bit better there than they do in some other places. So that would be all right. But I just don't know if I want to live there because of my time in the Navy. It'd just be so different. And I may be putting expectations on it that don't belong there. Oh, all right, ABCM. Thanks for popping up then if you're doing a live. I love lumpia, and I love Buchan, and I've had some good food there. Now, I am not a fan of balut. I don't think there's enough alcohol in the world, well alone the Philippines, to get me to eat balut. Now, maybe there is, but it's going to take a whole lot of alcohol to get me that drunk. Because when I was there before, this girl I was going out with tried to get me to eat balut, and it's like, no. You go ahead and eat it, but no, don't even bring that anywhere near me. And so, yeah, no, it's not for me. And it could just be the simple fact that it's the thought of it. And I'll be honest, it could just be that. But it's not something I'm willing to try. And no. But yeah, like I said, now I know a lot about Cebu because, like I said earlier, there is a vlogger I used to follow. Matter of fact, he did the first live stream I followed. I started following some other live streams after his, but his was the first one. And it was Chris in Cebu. He lived in Cebu, and his name was Chris, so thus the name. And he used to do a live stream walking around the streets of Cebu. Now, usually it was in the same area, the capital district, because of the internet connection or the connection. A lot of times, if he went somewhere else, he'd lose connection, and that would kind of end the live stream. And so I started following him. I wasn't sure if I'd like it, but I went back when I first found him. I went back and watched every video he had. And I enjoyed his videos. And then shortly after that, he started doing live streams. And so I started following him on live streams. Like I said, that's where I met Big Mac Daddy, Edward D. Beck. That's where I met Dan from Dan and Minnie's Journal. That's where I met Edward Denoy, or Ed Denoy. That's where I met Robert from Robert and Mindanao, who just came up not too long ago. So that's where I met a lot of my older followers. And then through Dan, like I said, I met Sammy and Robert and LV and a few others. And through LV, I met a lot of these others. And same thing with ABCM. So, but like I said, that's the only people I know in the Philippines is people through the internet. How well you know each other through something like this. Yeah, I've been to Japan. I've been to the Philippines. I've been to Taiwan. I've been to Hong Kong, China in '99. I went there for vacation. I was not in the service. I just went there on vacation for 3 weeks. I've been to Mexico and Canada quite a few times. I've traveled around some. Like I said, part of that's why I'm broke. I didn't save money. I tried to have fun, and that's what I did. And I enjoyed it. So when I look back on my life, the only regret is I didn't get a better job. I didn't save a little money. But if you tell me, well, you can save money, but you can't take this trip, well, then forget saving the money. I enjoyed that trip. I'm not going to give it up. Uh, that's just the way I am. So, yeah, here I am working longer than maybe I wanted to, but not as long as other people in my family have. My mother's father worked till he was almost 90 years old. He lived to be 92. My mom is 97. She'll be 98 in January. Her granddad, her dad's dad, he lived to be about 92. That's who I'm named after. She gave me his nickname, so my real name is Larry. That was my grandpa Lawrence, but everybody called him Larry. So my mom thought the name Lawrence was too stuffy, so she gave me his nickname, Larry. That's my real name. And her uncle Orange, who was her mother's brother, he lived to be about 98. So my mom's side of the family, there is really some longevity. And like I said, a lot of these people worked till they were in their 80s or 90s, and I have no desire to do that. I'm going to retire before my mid 70s. Like I said, in a year, as long as I don't have any kind of catastrophe, all my bills will be paid off but my car, and I'll start throwing money back for another 2 years or so, which will put me somewhere around 73. Maybe 70. I might work on 70. And then there again, also depends if my mother's still alive. I want to keep right on working because I'm not moving to the Philippines as long as my mother's alive because it takes too long to get back to the States from the Philippines. Now, maybe I'll retire and go somewhere else, but I doubt it. I really don't have the desire to move to Mexico or South America. Those I could be home within one day. So that's why, if I did it, that's why I would do it down there. If I decided to retire early and go somewhere else, because I'm tired of working. Because I could be home in a day. I could be from there to my hometown in a day. I couldn't do that from the Philippines. So if you get the word that you need to go home because your mom, then I can still do that from those two places. But I'd rather stay here, put up with the cold and the snow, because I can still be home, and I can be home in 12 hours driving. And if I wanted to fly, I could be home a lot quicker than that, as long as I can catch the flight right. And so it'd just be better to stay here and keep working. So I not wish my mom ill health at all. But if you ask her, she doesn't want to live to be 100. And she keeps saying that. And I tell her, I said, Mom, that's up to the good Lord. And she goes, I know, but I don't want to be 100. And I understand. I mean, she's living in a nursing home because somebody's got to be with her 24/7. And none of my sisters can do that. You got to be healthy enough to pick my mother up because she falls a lot. And I can't do it. So, like just a little over a week ago, my mother fell and they had to take her to the hospital. And it was kind of scary, but lucky enough, she didn't hurt anything seriously. And she was home later that night. They would bring her back home. But like I said, I don't want. When we decided to put my mom in the nursing home, and it was a family decision, myself and my 4 sisters all got together and talked. Now we weren't all face to face, but we were either face to face or on the phone with each other, all at the same time. And we got to talking about it, and it's like, you got to put her in the nursing home. My 2 sisters that she was living with really wasn't wanting to, but the thing is, they can't pick her up, and she's fallen a few times, and you have to call an ambulance or get one of your neighbors to come over and pick her up. And I was home when all this was going on. I went home to see my mom, and she fell and hurt herself real bad. She had a big old black eye, had bruises on both her knees, and she was in pain. She was in pain. And I looked at my sisters and said, "Look, if she keeps falling, they're going to charge you with elder abuse. We can't have that. You're trying to do right by mom, but she keeps falling because, well, she won't ask for help. This time that she fell the last time, she was reaching to pick up a paper clip that was out of her reach and kept leaning over and fell because she refused to call for help. That's my mother. Also, my mother is the kindest, sweetest woman you'll ever want to meet. She's never met an enemy. All she ever meets is friends. She'll talk to anybody. And she's always been that way. And now my dad he was a little different. My mom was all open book. My dad wasn't. He figured nobody did need to know everything about you. Keep your mouth shut and keep some things to yourself. Now, he was firm family man, family first. And so was my mom. So my family is very close. That's the way we were raised. I like that about the Philippines. Families are close. But it's you do what comes natural, and you try to enjoy yourselves, which is what I do. My father drove semis cross country, so did my younger brother. So that's where I got my love of travel from. Was my father. I love to travel. I always loved to go with my father whenever I could, which was during the summer months. My first cross country trip was from Indiana down to Georgia and back. I was about 3 years old. I went in a semi. This is back in the 50s. And I just loved traveling because I think a lot of that was because I got to spend time with my dad. Because my dad would be gone sometimes for 2 weeks or longer. Drive the truck. Back in those days, they didn't have this rule where you could only drive 60 hours and you had to be home. You had to take one or 2 days off a week, and they try to have you at home every other week. And no, they didn't. They didn't do that back in the 50s and 60s. My dad retired in the 60s, so whenever I got to travel, I got to spend time with my dad. So I think that's where I really got the love of travel. And my whole family, almost everybody in the family, loves to drive. The only one of my family that's not a big fan of driving, and she'll drive, is my sister Ruth Ann. She's the one with MS. Now, the thing about Ruth Ann is, for a person who's had MS, as long as she's had it, she's in great health. A lot of people, when they have MS, as long as my sister's had it, they're in wheelchairs. They can't get around by themselves at all, and she can. So it's a very very slow progressive form of MS. She's had it for about 40 years, and she's still walking around. She stoops a little bit. She has to use a cane to help walk to steady herself, and so she shuffles a little bit. Like I said, my sister Ruth Ann and my sister Alta, that's my two middle sisters, are for the health problems they have, they're not in bad health. They're both in the mid 70s. And my little sister, Carla, who's named after my father, whose name was Carl, she's in good health, and she's early 60s. Now, there was my younger brother, and there would have been another brother in there between me and my younger brother, but he never made it home from the hospital. So there would have been 8 kids, four boys, 4 girls, but there were 7 of us. I didn't find that out, that it was he didn't make it home from the hospital. I thought it was miscarriage, but from my understanding, he died in the hospital after being born. My mother told me that last year when I was home. I didn't know that before. It's something she never really liked to talk about. But, she talks about anything else. And like I said, she's a sweetheart of a woman. If you ever go into my shorts, you want to go into my shorts, you'll see a picture of I got a short video with me with my mother. It's like maybe 30 seconds long. And a lot of people say they can see that I look something like my mother. That's a bad insult to my mother. But I think I call her the love of my life. And she was 96 at that time. So she's, like I said, she was at the nursing home. That was when I came. That was the last day I was in Terre Haute last year. I got a quick video of her before I left to come home. I stopped by to see her once again before I left. And I left from there to come back home. Now, like I said, I could drive that in one day. I just don't. It's easier on me if I don't. But I have driven that in one day. The last time I did it in one day, I was going to stay in Batavia, which is right outside of where my sister Wanda lives, my oldest sister. But it was snowing, and I was like, "No, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep going." And it was a good thing I did because they got some pretty good snowfall before I got home, and they got a lot more after I got through there. So the next day would have been really tough trying to get through that area. But like I said, usually I don't go home that late in the year. I don't like dealing with the snow when I'm traveling. That's why I don't go home for my mom's birthday. I don't want to have to deal with the snow. And but I go home and see her, and I'll go home again this spring and see her again. And I used to call her a lot, but now she doesn't answer the phone because she can't hear it. So I have to call my sisters, any one of the three back in Indiana still, and talk to them, see how she's doing. Because all three of them go and visit. So does my niece and her daughter, my great niece. They'll go visit her. Matter of fact, they went and visited her on Thanksgiving, and they sent me a picture of the three of them together, which was a lovely picture. And my mom's smiling big because she got her granddaughter and great granddaughter there visiting her. So that made her happy. And like I said, they go every week. They really do. And unless the weather's really bad. For my two sisters, Ruth Ann and Alta, because then they can't get out in that weather because their health won't let them. But usually my niece or my youngest sister will go see her every week too. So she gets visitors. During the summer months or better months, she gets a lot more visitors. But all right, everybody, it seems like everything kind of dying down, and it looks like Ed's not going to make it back up. And I want to ask you, if you haven't given me a thumbs up yet, to please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I want to thank you all for coming. As you can tell, my voice is getting a little out of shape. That's from being tired, I think. Still recuperating from trying to get back to day shift schedule because it was a quick turnaround and not a lot of sleep for 2 days in a row. So, but we'll get over it. I'll adjust back to day shift a lot quicker than I ever adjusted to 3 to 11. And so, anyway, like I said, let me go ahead and finish this one up. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to wish you all well. Remember now, be kind to each other. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Stay healthy. And as always, try to have fun. Bye, everybody. Take care. Thanks for coming. See you in the next one.